Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. This is everything you need to know about the Season 7 Banners Fall update. Let's start off with what we didn't get to see on the PTS. First up, the Ultimatum Fernando skin. This is a crossover skin with Smite 2, very reminiscent of the God of War skin from Smite 1. And this skin is available from Season 7 ranked, so if you play 75 ranked matches, or win 75 ranked matches during Season 7, you will unlock this legendary skin. Just gonna scroll on through. Can't show it to you in the shooting range because I haven't won 75 matches of ranked yet. Sorry guys, I'm a little bit late on that. Next up we have the event pass, which is a flashback event pass, the Beat Botz flashback event pass. And you can see the skins and cosmetics which are available here. And the reason why that's important is because, well, you can't actually see the cosmetics because they're all in chests on these different tiers. Seriously, did they think this through? We have no way to inspect these skins. It's so annoying. But yeah, there are 36 levels in this event pass, and then one mystery tier over here. I'm not sure what this is. I think it's a bug. And yeah, if we go back to the title screen again, you can see we have the Remix Genos, we have the Alpha Speeder, we have whatever the name of this Androxus skin is, I forget, Battlesuit Kinessa, Remix Ceres, and Remix Strix. So a pretty solid set of skins. And if you weren't around for the original battle passes that these skins came from, then you'll be able to unlock them for the first time here in this event pass. So this is good for a lot of newer players, and for older veteran players, we'll actually end up getting more crystals out of this event pass than we put in. I don't know exactly how many, but the point is, we will get more crystals, so it can be a worthwhile investment for us too. I don't know. They have also done a bunch of work with the maps in this game. First of all, if we go to custom games, you can see that we now have the classic versions of Warder's Gate, Timbermill, and Stone Keep. So you can just straight up play these maps in customs now. That is awesome. But also, Onslaught now has double the map pool. Onslaught now has access to Ascension Peak, Bazaar, Bright Marsh, and, all the way down here, Snowfall Junction. So yeah, quite literally double the amount of maps, and this isn't just in customs, this is also in the base Onslaught queue, which is absolutely fantastic. Ascension Peak, Splitstone Quarry, and Ice Mines have also all gotten their details back from the open beta days, which is huge, and it's just like other maps like Bright Marsh and Primal Court, which have gotten their details back too. Super happy to see that. Commendations have also finally been updated. Oh my god. You can get a Flare and Style chest for 100 commendations, a gold chest for 175, a diamond trove for 250, and then the Needs to Touch Grass. The Needs to Touch Grass title for 325 commendations, and then at 400 commendations, you get a mystery avatar, because it's just a crystal right now. I believe the avatar is going to be added at a later date. Ranked will also have some new rewards. We have two brand new avatars. We have the season-long avatar, which is the Final Verdict limited avatar for Androxus, and then for Split 1 here, we have the War Machine avatar for Ashe. So, pretty cool avatars for both of these characters. And of course, Split 1 also comes with a golden cache, as is standard for Ranked. And then we have a new map rotation, which I do want to go over because it's a pretty drastic rotation. Out of rotation, they have taken Ascension Peak, Bright Marsh, Dawn Forge, heck yeah, Frog Isle, and Shattered Desert. So, yeah, a few good maps out of rotation, but also a few bad maps out of rotation. So, yeah, kind of a mix of good and bad there. Let's also talk about limited time modes. We have some pretty huge limited time modes coming to the game this patch. First and foremost, Capture the Flag, available for the full first week of the patch. So right now you can play this mode, and it looks to be pretty cool. This is literally just Capture the Flag, a classic shooter experience coming to Paladins. So yeah, you get to play this pretty legendary mode with all the Paladins characters on the classic version of Stone Keep. I, for one, am very excited to try this out. It seems like it's going to be a very fun mode. Then we have Survival, here from April 5th to April 9th. And this is one of the last old modes from way back in the day to be restored in the game. Kind of similar to Payload in the sense that this was at one time a core game mode for the game. In my opinion, it was significantly less fun, but maybe my opinion will change. I was really bad at the game. It was 7 years ago, okay? So, yeah. This is basically just, it's kind of like Team Deathmatch, Battle Royale, kind of sweaty Onslaught thing. It's a weird hybrid of modes. You basically play on the Onslaught maps, and there is a fog that is slowly closing in from the outside of the map to force everyone to the center. And it's basically the last man standing type of vibe, where, you know, once you die, you do not respawn, and the team to lose all their players first loses the round. There are like 4 rounds. It's an interesting game mode. And then finally we have Brightmarsh Beckons, which is just Onslaught on Brightmarsh. It's a test limited time mode to see if people actually like Brightmarsh for Onslaught. So definitely play that, test it out, and give your feedback to the devs. And finally, Arcade is returning with the addition of Survival. So when you queue for Arcade now, you have the potential to get between 5 different modes, which is pretty hectic. And now let's run through quickly all of the balance changes, starting with some general changes to aim assist. They're finally nerfing aim assist by reducing bullet magnetism for critical shots on all hit scan weapon types. So it'll be harder to hit headshots. You'll still have aim assist allowing you to aim just as easily, but the headshots are going to be rarer now. That's the key thing. It should make hit scans a little bit less impactful on aim assist in terms of the amount of critical damage they can do, which is good, because if you play with aim assist on PC, especially if you have a high frame rate, 144 frames, 300 frames, something like that, your aim assist is wicked strong, and people can abuse that, and it's just not fun to play against. So this is a really good change. And then, next up, they have also reduced the maximum size of hit markers by 50% to basically clear up some of the visual clutter on the screen. Finally, they have improved, hopefully, ranked matchmaking by tightening the allowed gap in ranks in lobbies containing Diamond Plus players. So the idea is, there will be fewer Gold and Silver players in Diamond Plus lobbies. That's good for everybody. Heck yeah. Next up, we have some item changes, including some changes that weren't there on the PTS. So we have Arcane Warding getting a nerf from 12% damage reduction to 10% damage reduction. Armor Plating is getting a nerf from 8% to 7% damage reduction. It's also important to mention that even though it's not listed here, it is listed in the bug fixes section of the patch, that Arcane Warding does not cause diminishing returns for armor plating anymore. That bug is gone, so you can buy Arcane Warding and armor plating at the same time now, and there won't be any sort of bug making the items less effective, which is probably why they nerfed Arcane Warding now, because, yeah, you can buy both of them and just get really tanky. Next up, Sentinel has been bug fixed to properly reduce the effectiveness of slows, so you can now officially buy Sentinel to counter things like Eevee ult, and it'll work! Yay! Trigger Scent also now only affects weapons, and its bonus damage has increased from 5% to 6%. Veteran has been nerfed from 7% to 6%, and then Unbound no longer reduces the effectiveness of slows. Apparently Unbound was still doing that, just like Resilience, before the whole item store rework, so that was kind of weird. Also, real quick, I want to show off the new shooting range before we get into the champion balance. So, there are some new power-ups that will help you out in the shooting range. For starters, we have this credit power-up, so if you spend some credits, you can get those credits back just by walking through this power-up a bunch of times. Over here, we have the cooldown power-up, where if you walk through this, your cooldowns will decrease really fast. Look at that. That's pretty cool. And then finally, we have the infinite ammo power-up over here. So if you walk over this, you can now shoot infinitely without needing to reload for a short amount of time, and you can just refresh it by walking over it again. So pretty nice update to the shooting range, allowing you to test more things. Alright, now let's go over champion balance. A few things have been changed on the PTS, but Azaan is not one of them. Azaan got a card buff to Flames of Wrath. It has been doubled in its effect from 50% to 100%, so the lift applied by Reckoning is actually a decent bit longer now. This card finally feels impactful, hooray! Atlas has also gotten some card buffs. Lessons of the Past now scales for 5 seconds instead of 3 seconds, and Ravages of Time has been reworked from a card that provided ultimate charge after getting an elimination, to a card that provides movement speed after getting an elimination. 25% for 4 seconds, which, in my opinion, isn't actually that high. But the shield card is especially interesting because Deja Vu causes the card to stack, giving us way more shield health than just 500. But yeah, also if we get an elimination, real quick, you can see, we move a little bit faster. And the reason why I say Atlas's speed card is kind of small is because Barik just got a massive buff to Accelerator Field. So this card now has a 1 second decreased duration from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. However, it increases the movement speed of yourself or your allies by 50% now. So that is pretty insane. We put the shield down, everyone who walks through it goes wicked fast. Really makes you wonder why Atlas's card scales so low in comparison. Betty's card A Lost Realm has also been doubled, increasing the area of effect of all of her explosions by 60%. So, yeah, more spam, look at that. Woo! Buck's card Bully has gotten a soft rework, so it now allows you to gain 50% lifesteal for 2.5 seconds just after using Net Shot. Before, it provided 60% lifesteal only against the target while they were slowed. So this does increase its overall consistency. You can miss the net shot and still get the lifesteal. However, they have finally fixed the bug where it wasn't having diminishing returns with life rip. So if you max out the lifesteal item, then you will not get 120% lifesteal. You will get significantly lower. Dredge got massively nerfed from the buff that he was going to get on the PTS. It's not a net nerf, right? He's not getting weaker this patch, but the planned buff got absolutely destroyed. So Gun Deck, if you remember on the PTS, was going to increase his reload speed by 40%. Now it's only 15% at level 5, so that is a huge nerf to the effectiveness of this card. And Haul on the bow line has also been, well, not just fixed, but also flat out nerfed. This card on the PTS provided 125% reload speed after exiting a shortcut. Most of which you didn't feel because the cap is 60%. But instead of just making it so it caps out at 60%, they've now nerfed it to just 35% for 3 seconds after exiting a shortcut. So yeah, that's kind of small. I feel like you probably don't even want to run this card. Now let's talk about my boy, Fernando. Let's go. He got a huge buff. And it also did get slightly nerfed after the PTS, but it's still a massive buff. They have put Aegis into base kit. Meaning, with every single talent now, you can toggle the shield as much as you want. However, they finally did the smart thing, which is to nerf the version that they put into base kit. So the base HP of the shield in base kit has gone down from 5500 HP to 4500 HP, taking a 1000 health nerf, which is very reasonable and very fair, honestly, because you can still use this with Scorch. Scorch, I believe, is now the new meta for Fernando. This is so freaking cool. So, yeah. The new effect of Aegis is that it now increases Chivalry's shield to 5,500 health, so it restores that shield health, and it begins regenerating 25% sooner and 25% faster. You now only need 20% shield to activate Chivalry after it is broken. And you compare that with Towering Barrier, which did get a slight nerf, from 30% down to 25%. But we can combine this, and let's check out the new shield. So I'm just going to have the Cassies break this, and you can see how strong this is. Think. Oh, she's gonna take a while, isn't she? Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty strong shield, and you can pair this with Buffed Guardian as well. Oop, put it down, and look at how fast it regenerates. So yeah, generally just the most consistent shield out of the bunch. Aegis is still the shield talent, obviously, clues in the name. But now you're a lot more free to play Formidable, or Scorch, or whatever you want, which is really cool. Furia has gotten a bunch of changes this patch because she's the first of 2 supports to have their keywords removed. So all of these talents no longer have keywords. That is excellent. They're finally doing away with this broken system. And, well, they've done a bunch of nerfs and buffs and all sorts of weird stuff. So, first of all, they have reduced the ultimate charge gain from healing and dealing damage by 15%. Bit of a slower ultimate charge rate, but I think that's fine considering her ultimate is one of the strongest in the game. Kindle Soul has had its base heal increase from 900 to 1000, so it's back to where it was pre-keywords on all talents. That is fantastic. Cherish now has its AoE increase from 35 units to 50 units, so it's going to be much more reliable. Of course, we can't showcase that in a shooting range, but it's just more reliable. Exterminate has had nothing done to it, it's just had surgery removed, so it is net weaker this patch, sadly. Solar Blessing, however, got a massive buff. So not only did they increase the healing per tick from 150 to 175, but they made it so it now also heals Furia. Finally! This has been a long time coming, honestly. However, it will not allow the lingering effect to apply to Furia. So if you stand in the beam, you get healed, but if you leave the beam, you don't have that lingering effect. So that's very important to note. And finally, they have changed Righteous Path. This was a card that increased the travel distance of Wings of Wrath. Now it provides increased movement speed up to 30% for 3 seconds using Wings of Wrath. Grohk is the second support to have his keywords removed, and Heck yeah, I'm so happy to see that. And they've also done some very interesting changes to him, although these are actually all pretty much buffs, apart from Totemic Ward, but Totemic Ward is still stronger this patch. It's weird, let's just talk about it. So first of all, quite possibly the biggest change to Grohk this patch, they have increased the healing tick rate on his totems, at base, from 0.15 seconds to 0.1 seconds, which is huge. This massively increases the amount of healing they do, and they're actually doing more healing now than they were with the keywords. That's how powerful this tick rate change is. So, yeah, it is really, really huge. And you'll notice that Totemic Ward no longer increases the healing provided by healing totems. It had its bonus removed. But that doesn't matter, because they're still doing more healing this patch, even though Totemic Ward basically got double nerfed, because it got its keyword removed, and it got its inherent healing increase removed. It's crazy how powerful this tick rate buff is. On top of that, Spirit's Domain has gotten a slew of buffs, so it now increases the movement speed of allies hit by 20% for 1 second, and of course you can stack this with the speed card on the totems. It also had its maximum ammo capacity increased from 15% up to 25%, so that's pretty cool. And Maelstrom has also gotten a damage increase to make up for the lack of keyword, from 5 increase to 10 increase, so it starts at 75 now. However, it's important to note that this is still a nerf from before the keywords, because with keywords, his staff started at 77, and his shock pulse also did more damage. So Maelstrom and Exterminate for Furia both net nerfed this patch, but Totemic Ward is still eating pretty good when it comes to the healing output. Let me just show you this real quick. This tick rate is pretty ridiculous. Bam! Throw the totems down. You can barely even see the numbers, they're so fast. And yeah, they're doing basically 380 healing per second now. On all talents. But it's more impactful with Totemic Ward because you get a third totem. Next up we have Grover, and Deep Roots is back on the menu. This used to be one of the worst talents in Paladins, but now it's been reworked, basically back to its pre-rework state. That's confusing wording, I know. A little bit of history. Back in the past, this talent used to root people, and also chain the root to others. They eventually removed the root on the chain, although it did still chain the damage, but eventually they decided the talent was just too strong, so they reworked it into the version of Deep Roots that was god-awful that nobody played. Now, that awful version is gone, and has been replaced back with the previous version of Deep Roots that rooted people after you hit them with the crippling throw. However, it no longer chains, period. No chain at all, it's just a single target root, done and dusted. So we compare this with a generic build, and you can see that if we slam Pip with the root, he stops moving. And the reason why this is so powerful is because it's the easiest root to hit in the game, and it also has a ridiculously low cooldown when you pair it with the right cooldown cards. So you're going to have to make a new build for this probably, but yeah, it's ridiculously strong. So yeah, Grover now has 3 viable talents again, but it's very terrifying. Imani has gotten some changes since the PTS, and honestly, these are all pretty much net buffs. So they actually already reworked Pyretic Momentum, because apparently people weren't jiving with it. So this new version of Pyretic Momentum increases your movement speed by 32% for 3 seconds after using Frostfire Glide. On the PTS, this increased the turning radius speed by 50%, so you could turn faster in Frostfire Glide, but that's no longer the case. So, yeah, rest in peace that card. But then the original effect has been put into base kit, so the original effect was it made your Frostfire Glide faster. And this has also been buffed, because originally on the PTS it was implemented at level 3 in base kit. Now, it's at level 4 in base kit, so you're just faster in Frostfire Glide now. So we can zoom, 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 zoom. And then once our Frostfire Glide is over, we have a movement speed buff for, what is it, 3 seconds? Yes, 3 seconds, so that's pretty neat. On top of that, Imani also got some massive bug fixes, which you won't find in the balance section. These are bug fixes, but they're bug fixes that are net buffs. First of all, Inferno Cannon will no longer root Imani in place when she gets hit with any kind of knockback effect. So previously, if she got hit by something like Kinetic Burst from Ashe, she would be rooted, because the momentum was really weird. Now she's just straight up immune to knockbacks in Inferno Cannon, so that's really nice. The second, and I would argue even larger bug fix, is that the dragon no longer has fall off. So you can do full damage at the proper range. This was indeed a bug. The dragon was not supposed to have fall off, and the fact that it's been removed means that the dragon is now a really powerful damage dealing ability. Look at that. 170 damage at that range. Before, it would be doing like 50. So this is actually a huge buff to the dragon. Next up, we have Koga getting a sort of a power shift to Adrenaline Junkie. So you'll notice that the damage has been set back down to 80, so you can generate energy quicker now with Adrenaline Junkie. However, it no longer allows you to generate energy when you're attacking shields. So, yeah, a bit of a consistency nerf, but when you do hit those proper enemy health pools, yeah, you'll notice the energy is building very quickly now compared to what it was last patch, which, yeah, I think it's a net buff for Koga, but, yeah, you won't be able to just spam shields like you were before. Lex has also gotten a power shift to Heroism, so CC immunity is back on this talent. They have restored that and buffed the damage reduction to 50%. However, they have increased the combat slide's cooldown when using this talent to 8 seconds, more than double the base 3-second cooldown. And even when you pair this with Wicked Don't Rest, you'll notice that this is still a ridiculously long cooldown, and you basically need to use a full clip, almost, in order to get your dash back. So, a heavy hit to his mobility when using this talent, but a lot of that potency has been restored thanks to the CC immunity being back. Is it a good talent? I would venture on the side of still probably not, but we'll just have to test it. Makoa got a small but impactful card buff to Harden. This card would give you up to 25% damage reduction after hitting an enemy with Dredge Anchor, and the duration of this has been doubled, from 2 seconds to 4 seconds, and even if you just use it as a filler like I am in this build, that's still 10% damage reduction for 4 seconds after hitting an enemy with Dredge Anchors, so really nice consistency on this card now. Bomba has gotten a lot of changes since the PTS, mostly to his cards, and this is because of a change that they did to Mending Spirits. So let's just grab Spirits Chosen, and let me show you what they did real quick. This Mending Spirits at base now has its tick rate basically doubled, so it's twice as fast now. So before, it would heal every quarter of a second over 4 seconds, and now it heals every eighth of a second over 2 seconds. And so here's what that looks like. Much burstier healing now, which is pretty good for topping people off very, very quickly. However, there were concerns about it nerfing his cards, which most of his cards that applied on Mending Spirits were actually dependent on the duration of the Mending Spirits, and so when you cut down the duration of Mending Spirits, you thus nerf the cards. That has been fixed. So now all the cards have set durations. We can go ahead and take a look. So if we just tear apart this build real quick, you can see that Swift Spirits now lasts for 3 seconds, which is actually how it was, apparently, before the description update. So it was just working like this before Bomba even got changed, and the description was just inaccurate. So this is just a description update. The card is fundamentally the same. Possession has gotten its duration set to just 4 seconds, which is exactly the same as it was before, and they have not followed through with the damage reduction buff. They were going to buff the damage reduction, but instead they've decided, yeah, let's just leave it at 20%. I think that's the right call, personally. And then, finally, we have Ritual Magic, which this card had a bit of a confusing description because it said, heal for 20 every 0.2 seconds for 5 seconds while healing an ally with Mending Spirits. So it kind of had like 2 durations going on there. It was really confusing. So that's been resolved, and now it's just 5 seconds after hitting an ally with Mending Spirits. So a really long duration card, honestly. And so really glad to see that all these cards have been accounted for. Crisis averted on Bomba, honestly. And then finally, they have increased the movement range of Slither from 54 to 60 units. So, yeah, just a nice little quality of life buff to that, and it will scale with the travel distance card, because this is a percent-based card, so, yeah, that's a cool buff, I guess. Next, we have a small card nerf to Nyx. Devastating Blows has been decreased from 25 down to 20 units at level 5, so you'll have to be a bit closer to people to get that bonus damage now. Pip has gotten the exact same treatment to Buck in regards to his lifesteal card, Acumen. So this will now provide 40% lifesteal for 3 seconds just after using the flask. So you can see I'm still getting lifesteal on Ying here, even though I threw the flask at the wall. So a major consistency buff. However, the potency has gone down. It used to be 50%, now it's 40%, and it scales properly with Life Rip. There are diminishing returns on this, meaning Pip's 100% lifesteal build is also sadly dead. Raum has gotten some pretty nice changes this patch, starting off with his Juggernaut, which now applies a 900 impulse knockback on hit, and this is on top of the knock-up that it already provided. And this is paired in tandem with a buff to Declaration of War, which now increases the potency of both the knock-up and the knockback by 35%, which is a major scaling increase, basically from 4% per tier to 7% per tier now. So we can really just throw people around. Whoop-bam! And they go flying. This is actually a pretty crazy build that I need to showcase. Sadly, I didn't get to play with it on the PTS. Also, they reworked War-Torn Plains. Nobody cares about this card. It now increases the time it takes to spin down your Hellfire Gatling by up to 35%. It's really not an interesting card. And then finally, the biggest buff of them all is to the talent Enforcer. This talent now provides 1.2 seconds of crowd control immunity while using Juggernaut. So if you equip Enforcer, you'll see that he glows yellow for the first 1.2 seconds, basically the wind-up phase of his charge here. So this allows him to reactively basically counter crowd control effects. Like if he sees a Saris ult coming, he can just press Juggernaut and counter it. And also it means that it'll be harder for enemies to exploit Raum and easily just cripple him out of his Juggernaut. So that is a massive buff for Raum. And keeping with the massive buffs, we have really huge buffs for Skye, mostly revolving around her other two talents besides Debilitate. Starting with Smoke and Dagger. This now finally allows Skye to be invisible while using her smoke screen. Yeah, I don't know why they ever decided it was a good idea to make this talent just not make her invisible. It was such a silly change. But on top of that, they also decided, hey, why not? Let's also buff the healing of it. So they have buffed the healing from 100 to 150 per second. So this talent, instantly back to being pretty good. And also, Preparation has gotten some massive buffs. So this talent now has a duration increase from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. They have nerfed the damage reduction from 75 to 50%, but that's okay because they have massively increased the uptime by giving Hidden a second charge. We now have 2 charges of Hidden, so we can go in, damage reduction for 4 seconds, go out, kill Victor, and then we can go back invis again. Which this, honestly, kind of harkens back to the playstyle of old Preparation, where you would get reset on getting a kill. So you could do that. Enter Hidden, get a kill, enter Hidden back again. And since she has 2 smoke bombs at base as well now, that kind of also stacks with the idea of the playstyle. So Preparation is also way stronger this patch than it used to be. On top of that, you'll notice there, the smoke bomb has gotten a generic buff, actually technically a bug fix they listed it as, where the invisibility will last for 3 seconds after leaving smoke bomb. So much increased consistency on the invisibility across the board for every single talent due to this change. Lastly, we have some card changes. So they have moved Emergency Exit into her armor/weapon category. This card is exactly the same as it was last patch, however, so no change there. And then Slip Away, which previously provided her movement speed while out of combat. Really bad card. This has been moved to the Hidden category, and this card now allows Skye to heal for potentially up to 7.5% of her max health every half a second while hidden. So basically a slightly weaker version of Meditation, the item, as a card for Skye. So yeah, a bit of extra self-sustain for Skye now, and overall she is much, much, much stronger this patch. Strix has gotten a teeny tiny change to Crackshot. No more fall off. Okay, that's actually not a teeny tiny change. It is actually a pretty big deal for this talent. It still nerfs your damage reduction by 25%. It reduces your damage on your rifle by 25%. That is a huge, huge deal. Apparently my sound effects have stopped working. Okay. But, yeah, it does make your rifle a lot more consistent to use, which some people definitely find fun. It certainly is a lot easier to play Strix with this talent. But yeah, is it meta for Strix? I would still venture on the side of no. Terminus got a change that seems pretty small, but it's actually pretty huge. Massacre Axe's aim is no longer cached prior to his animation. This is a huge deal, because it means that, when walking forward, your range will no longer be shorter than if you're walking backwards. It's a really weird sort of bug that, well, most die-hard Terminus mains know about, but most actual regular players probably don't know about. And it means that your aim is just going to be consistent on Terminus all the time now. It's a really good change. Really subtle, but really good. Torvald's Wind Dancer card got a nerf. Again. The card's probably dead now. This card previously provided 10% movement speed to the protection target at level 1, and then 5% extra per tier. So with this build here, at level 3, you would have had 20% movement speed. Now, it starts at 8, and increases by 3% per tier, so you have to have it at level 5 now, just to get 20% increased movement speed on the protection target. Heavy investment, and I'm not sure if it's worth it now, but that is the only nerf Torvald, the S-tier tank, has gotten. His damage is still the same. His shield health is still the same. He's still a beast. So, yeah, he's still probably going to be banned a lot. Vora has gotten some pretty massive card changes, the most important of which is to Unified in Purpose. This card now provides 30% damage reduction for 3 seconds after hitting an enemy with Dark Siphon, making it now instantly a really good card to run with Vora, surprisingly. This card used to provide 10% damage reduction flat per tier, and when you increase the tier of the card, you would just increase the duration up to 5 seconds, and it wasn't really worth using. But now, it's a really potent card, and I would say it's actually worth using now. Second, they massively buffed False Idol, but it's still probably not worth using, because it still provides just movement speed and lifesteal after falling below 40% health. It's a very conditional card, and that's what holds it back in my opinion, but the raw stats are actually pretty good now. So it now increases your movement speed by 35%, up from 25%. It increases your lifesteal by 50%, up from 25%, and the duration has been more than doubled from 2 seconds to 5 seconds. So very powerful buffs to this card, but I still don't know how much you'll see this. And then finally, Broken Promises has been increased from 60 health per tier to 100 health per tier, so you can get a bit more healing after hitting an enemy with Obliteration. And the last major change to a champion is to Willo. At base, by default, with every talent, she can now hover in midair just by holding down the space bar. It's quite literally just like Androxus's drift passive, except it's a little bit different in terms of the momentum, because if you activate it later in your fall, you won't get as much of a drift effect. But this is a massive buff to Willo's mobility. And, well, it's going to make her a lot stronger now, especially when you consider that it's paired with the Blast Flower buff from last patch. So this is pretty insane. You can just exit ult, and you can get basically a second ultimate from this drift passive now. And then you can flutter, and you can just keep going. This is so cool for Willo, and it's the buff that she needed, because she's been pretty mid for a very long time now. And this will finally shift her up a major amount in the meta. This is really good for her. And lastly, hate to end on a boring note, but here we are. Ying's card Disappear used to provide movement speed while out of combat. Really bad card, and it's now been changed to increase your movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds when dropping to or below 30% health. And the thing is, this is at level 1. So you can just have this at level 1, and it works. Hey, that's cool. And when you increase the level of the card, you simply decrease the internal cooldown of this card from 30 seconds down to 10 seconds. So you might see this card a decent bit as a level 1 filler. I doubt you'll see it as the mainstay level 5 card in a build, but who knows? Maybe Ying mains know something I don't. Maybe this is what they should do to Vora's card. Make it so that the stats are really strong at level 1, but yeah, make the internal cooldown long, and then just, yeah, do this. Maybe that's a good idea, I don't know. But pretty boring change for the last change of the patch. And then the very last thing is just a bunch of bug fixes. And most of these actually have to do with the UI and just cleaning up descriptions, cleaning up all sorts of UI elements in the game, which is pretty nice because it makes the game feel more polished. And yeah, there are also some bug fixes, like I already mentioned, to things like the items, and yeah, also Imani. So there are a few good bug fixes listed through here. I'm not going to talk about pretty much any of these, because there's so many description updates. They're kind of boring. The patch notes are listed in the description. If you want to read all these for yourself, you can. But yeah, it's literally just a bunch of description updates to make everything more accurate, more clean, more concise. Literally, basically every champion has gotten touched here. Look at how far I have to scroll. It's so many. It's so many. And yeah, finally, Dawnforge has fixed an issue where damage immune champions were still taking damage from Dawnforge's star, just to wrap everything up. So yeah, that's going to do it for the Banners Fall update. Let me know what you think about all of these changes in the comment section down below. If you found this video to be helpful, then make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because I'm of course going to be making a bunch of videos testing out all of these changes, and eventually we'll get some gameplay of this skin. But first I actually have to unlock it, and that means we're going on another ranked adventure. So stay tuned for all of that. Check out the Twitch channel as well, because we'll be streaming a lot of those matches live, and also check out the Discord server if you want to find people to party up with. And yeah, just talk about Paladins, talk about the update with. Lastly, if you want to buy some crystals to buy the new event pass, then consider doing it over at my Nexus by going to nexus.gg/AndrewChicken. There you can buy crystals, the season pass, all of this wonderful DLC, and you can support the channel directly in the process, because a portion of the proceeds go directly to, well, yeah, paying me and making it so I can eat food. So I can keep making videos. It's pretty good, I'd say. So yeah, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.